Professor Clarke, good to have you with us. So what are the two sides, do you think, going to get from this meeting?
Yes, I mean, the North Koreans will try to get grain out of this and food. About a quarter of North Korea's population of 26-odd million people is said by the United Nations already to be starving, and the other three-quarters are at subsistence levels. So they certainly need food, they need oil. The Russians, of course, need ammunition. Not immediately, but the Russians have probably used, maybe depending on their usage rates on a daily basis, they've probably used between 8 and 11 million artillery rounds so far in the war since February last year. And they've had stocks of maybe 20 million rounds, and they produce the best they can produce about 1 million more a year. So they need ammunition. That's what they'll get out of it. And the war, of course, just goes on absorbing more and more ammunition.
Yeah, and let's go to the war now. And Russian troops are on the move.
Yeah, the Russians are moving troops. I mean, they're moving some of their good troops. They've been massing troops up here opposite Kharkiv for a big counter-push, but that hasn't made much progress. And they're bringing troops down. They did this a couple of weeks ago, and we now know they've brought some more troops down, the 42nd Division, whole division, and they've taken out some of their VDV regiments from other divisions. So the VDV are the airborne forces. They've taken out some of the best forces, 7 different regiments from 4 different divisions. They've also sent them down there to the southern area, which is Tokmak, which is where they are, where the real battle is now going on. And so this area, the Orikhiv axis, as it's called, south of Orikhiv, and the Ukrainians have taken Robotine. They're pushing towards Tokmak. That's a really key issue, key area. And the Russians look as if they've brought troops down towards Melitopol, and they're sending them to the front in Tokmak because they're determined to try to hold it while the Ukrainians push down against it.
Prevent the Ukrainians pushing through. And in the last few hours, we've had some amazing footage that's been released as well of Ukrainian special forces.
Yeah, I mean, if we just go back to the previous map, the big map, we look at Crimea. There is an area there called the Boyka Towers, which is off the west coast of Crimea, and it's about a third of the way into the Black Sea. So if you think of the Boyka Towers there, these are 4 oil and gas rigs, and those rigs were occupied by the Russians in 2015. So the Ukrainians have now taken them back. And the fact is that these are something that they lost a long time ago in the first Russian land grab. So they're already, they would say, they're taking back territory that they lost a long time ago. And these rigs are important because that gives them a base to put more pressure on Crimea. If they can get some missile launches onto those rigs,
footage of it, can't we?
They'll use them against Crimea.
Yeah, amphibious assault was it?
This is the footage that's come from the GUR, which is the special forces, or the group that operates the special forces in Ukraine. And obviously, this is what they want you to see. But clearly, it shows a pretty efficient-looking amphibious operation. That's one of the 4 rigs.
Yep.
And it's a pretty good amphibious operation to get hold of the rigs, get the Russians off there. And they did have to fight for them. And get their own material on there. Now, the Russians will undoubtedly attack the rigs, so they want to get some anti-aircraft missiles, defensive missiles, onto the rigs quickly, and they'll want to do a whole series of other things. But the fact that they've got hold of the rigs again is symbolically important, but it also will create that area of pressure on Crimea. A couple of weeks ago, they took down some of the air defence of Crimea, and that gives them a temporary hole in Russia's air defence. We now know this is one of the things they pushed through that hole before the Russians could repair the air defence.
Fascinating. All right, Professor Clarke, always great to get your analysis. Thank you very much.